Hey guys, so today we're tuning in with Jason W. Diggs, who's the founder of Authentic Relating Training International Art. And we are right now here hanging out in Bali, where both of us have been for the last number of months. We've done a bunch of trainings together. And I met Jason the first time in Boulder, Colorado, when I was dropping in with the circling community and the authentic relating community over there. And I just remember the first time when I went to your circle, into your circle in Boulder at the Integral Center.
Yeah.
I was like, damn, this guy has something special. There was like something really beautiful and deep, and when I then kept on coming, I always wanted to be in your groups. And I was like, I want to be in Jason's group for this. And then since then we have started collaborating more, both in Authentic Relating Training International as well as through the Ecstatic Awakening Retreat coming up. And today I want to drop in and kind of grill / have a conversation with Jason on a few topics that I find are so potent and so beautiful, because authentic relating is really this thing that is spreading like wildfire across the world right now and taking the world by storm, and it's transforming relationships. And I have had the experience of learning things both in circling and authentic relating, but most of all in the trainings with Jason actually, where we've learned a certain technique or process for something, and then I'm like, shit, if I had known this 10 years ago,
right,
those relationships would have been like super fucking different.
Okay, I want to say one thing right up front, and then I want to give like some major value right away.
Totally.
So so the amazing thing about authentic relating is like we're teaching these skills and tools for communication and conflict transformation, but we're doing it in a very, very particular way. We're harvesting like all of the potential energy of right here, right now. So our brains, our complex nervous systems and minds like can take everything from the past and extrapolate and make a map and look at the future and like anticipate what other people are going to do, and all of that is going on. Yeah. But our bodies, like our physical form, has never left the present moment for our entire life. And so all of that potential energy is stored right here. So authentic relating it's like the missing emotional education that we all one day, I don't want to say missing, it's like it will happen, It will happen that we have emotional education, in middle school or high school, because that is actually what will transform our world. That's what I believe.
Totally and absolutely. And I feel that authentic relating is really this missing link in probably the biggest missing piece in spiritual growth. And check in for yourself if you recognize this, that you've gone to Vipassana, you've gone to a silent retreat with Muji or whoever, and you've had these amazing realizations of consciousness and awareness, and then you're in your perfect meditation inside your room and you realize God and the universe and everything. Whoa. And then the guy doesn't text you back. Or your partner comes in and they say something that like triggers you, and then whatever happens, or something around money, or something around work, feeling overwhelmed, feeling that you want to create something but you don't feel empowered to create it, something in your life, and it's like all of that spiritual growth just never happened. And so I call it the meditation relationship gap. And this is where authentic relating comes in, because it's really this, I was just sharing with Jason before now, it's kind of like almost as if Tantra and Vipassana and nonviolent communication had a love child. It would be authentic relating, because I want to explain it like this, and this might give you an insight also if you're new to authentic relating, that Tantra has this amazing energetic activation, and you move into the full spectrum of emotions and energetic expression, but super sucky at communication skills. And then you have NVC, nonviolent communication, which is great at communicating, obviously, although there's some flaws there too, but it's dry as fuck. And then we have Vipassana, which is amazing for realizing awareness and awakening, but it just completely lacks that energetic presence and embodiment. And authentic relating, I feel, have all of them. There's the emotional, energetic, awakening, communication skills, and everything together.
Yeah, it's a real integration, because like you're saying, all of our spiritual awareness or spiritual development eventually needs to come down back into our bodies, back into our relationships, and be tested. And where the rubber meets the road is, when those situations in life show you actually where your awareness is at. And so authentic relating is really, really good at teaching us to be aware of what's going on inside of us in the very moment. And I like to say authentic relating is not necessarily even about healing. It's actually about putting new options on the menu. Like if you have like 3 new options on the menu, if you're feeling triggered in a particular situation, and you have a lot more understanding about who you are as a being and who this other person is as a being, that's a really big step, right? So it's an integration of, like you're saying, it's embodiment, these tools, these specific skills that are that we can practice over time. It's really like an entire path of growth that focuses on the relational and emotional aspect of our being.
Yes, and this is where this ninja relating skill comes in so deep, because, and you can check in for yourself as you're watching this, what is your relationship with conflict? If I say conflict, then what happens in your body? Is there a feeling of wanting to protect, of pull away, of avoiding? How do you respond in your life when somebody comes to you and they're like, hey, there's something that I need to share with you, and they have like an issue with you? How do you receive that? Because personally, I used to be extremely afraid of conflict, and I would pull away and avoid and be super in fear. And now when somebody comes towards me with a conflict, I actually kind of get excited, because I see this as an opportunity for growth and for connection. And one of the reframes of authentic relating is not just conflict resolution, but conflict transformation. And that conflict is actually clarity and connection that is wanting to happen. And so when you can look for what is the clarity and what is the connection that is trying to come through, you are looking with a completely different lens compared to if you're like, how can I defend? How can I be right?
Sure.
How can I deflect? And so what is conflict transformation?
Sure. Well, like you're saying, clarity and connection, right? What's the opposite of connection? It's defensiveness. It's playing the victim. It's like running away. It's attacking other people. So we actually teach people to remain open and witness their own experience and have more skillful tools in the area of connection, right? What is clarity? Clarity is basically a big pile of expectations and assumptions that we have about reality and situations that we haven't yet communicated, and they're actually driving our behavior. We're not even aware of our own expectations, our own assumptions, our own misunderstandings about where there's this beautiful quote by George Bernard Shaw. He says, the biggest problem with communication is the illusion that it's happened. So in other words, right?
Can you just repeat that? I love this, but repeat it one more time. Just listen up, guys. This is genius.
The biggest problem with communication is the illusion that it's happened. So in other words, we make an expression and we assume that the other person actually understands us. Someone else makes an expression, we assume that we understand them. Whereas a lot of times we just don't. We're coming from very different perspectives. We're coming from very, very different, even value sets, and often very positive value sets. So when I sit with companies or couples and do, mediations and sessions with people, what I usually find is that there's these competing values. So this person is like, we need to be strong to be successful, and this person is like, we need to have harmony to be able to work together and cooperate. And they're literally just fighting out strength and harmony, these two values that we're standing for. So if I could just convey a message to the people out there, it's like, if you're having conflict with someone, chances are 98% chance that they're standing for something that's really important to them that you don't understand. And the solution is to start listening for the values that people are advocating for, even if they're kind of being unskillful in their communication, because I promise you they're down there. They're fighting for something that's important to them.
So even if somebody's coming to you and they haven't done the authentic relating training,
Yes.
so they're coming and they're like dumping something, if you know this, you can actually listen for where are they coming from, what are they fighting for, what matters to them,
Yep.
what is the underlying desire, what is the clarity and connection and healing that is trying to happen.
Yep. And looking at your own mind, your own maybe tangled emotions in a particular situation. Start to look for the places that you have expectations and assumptions that you haven't communicated. Because the fastest way out of conflict, the fastest way to transform tension into clarity and connection is to make a clear and vulnerable request. So that's the way to do it, but you actually need to know what's true for you. You need to know what want or need you're having that's not being met. You need to actually be open and not defensive and not controlling when you're making this request. So it's actually a pretty advanced skill, but we teach people to just start practicing it immediately, like even with small situations, and it can literally, this one thing, making clear and vulnerable requests whenever you find tension in your life, like if you take that one thing on as a practice, you'll start to learn about communication, like the situations themselves will start to teach you.
Can you give an example of 2 versions of expressing requests? That one that is what you are talking about, and one that would be not so clear and vulnerable?
Sure. So I did a training recently, and we were renting a home from a friend of mine, and we needed to leave this home in a way that had the homeowner feeling good. And so I had this whole staff team. They're largely volunteers, right? And they all tell me, we need to leave at 7 o'clock. We need to leave at 7:15, and the schedule is, and we're all staying in the house, and we need to do the laundry, blah, blah, blah. All this stuff is happening. And so I start to notice tension arising in me, like, I'm going to get stuck with all this work. Like, we haven't planned this well. There's not enough resources here. So the way not to do it is to start like guilting people and controlling people into doing what you need them to do to relieve the tension, right?
And how would you say that? Like, could you give an example of guilting, controlling?
Oh gosh, like, can you guys please help me, because like this is just not working. Like, we really need to, like, any kind of bringing tension, your own frustration directly into your communication. Now you can name, like, hey guys, I feel a little frustrated. If you name that in a vulnerable way, it's very different than if the frustration's coming out through your tone of voice. It's honoring of them. But it takes self-awareness to be able to just even have that little shift. And sometimes that is enough to get people to listen and on your side, such that you can then make the requests. It's like, and the thing about clear and vulnerable requests is you have to be prepared for a no. Because if you're not prepared for a no, you're actually in control.
So if you're coming there and you're like, I have crafted this perfect, authentic relating sentence that I'm going to deliver, and it's going to get me everything that I want. Yeah, that's a very like skillful kind of covert manipulation thing. But so how would you, in that situation, express a clear and vulnerable request?
Yeah, I would just start with asking for help. Like, I need your help. Here's why I need your help, because this is important to me. So we teach these tools really in depth.
So expressing the value, this is really important to me too.
Yeah, we call that setting context or naming the why. Like sharing your why up front really prepares people to hear the requests. And we go into these tools really in depth. I mean, we spend 2 or 3 days straight with a group of people studying these in depth and practicing them.
I love this about setting context, and I want to give an example that came up actually in one of the authentic relating trainings, as well in one of the circles, and that was that. So this is about setting context, which can transform all your interactions and all your relationships if you even just get this one tool. And so this one woman, she was sharing about how she was dating this guy a while back, and that a while into their dating she started noticing that it was just too much for her and she needed space. And she said that she had told the guy, like, hey, I feel like I'm not having enough personal space and I need, can you like back off a bit? Whereupon he started trying harder and wanting to be with her even more and kind of getting desperate and all of this. And I asked her, did you enjoy the interaction up until that point, or was it more like you're trying to actually cut the connection? She was like, no, I actually really enjoyed it, but then he started being so pushy that I stopped enjoying it. And so what I said to her, and what you can see how this can apply to your life, is that the power here lies in setting context. And so that if, another version of the same scenario could have been that she would first have set context and expressed her true authentic feeling, which could have sounded something like, hey, I'm really loving the connection that we're having. I really enjoy the time that we're spending together. And for me, I just personally need a bit more time and a bit more space to really relax into this. And I would love to keep on seeing you, but I will just, what I need right now is to have a little bit more space, because I enjoy our connection, but I just need a bit more space. That would have landed in a completely different way, because the context is, I actually like you. The context is, I want to maintain this connection. The context is, I want to maintain this connection, and this is going to enable me to go deeper into the connection, as opposed to back off.
Yeah, this is a brilliant example for this. And I like to say that context is the Swiss Army knife. It's the tool that actually, it's like, it has like a little scissors and a little screwdriver and a little knife and corkscrew and all that, because you can use it in so many different situations. So like I said, we do go deep into these tools, but like to give you guys the basic framework for this, the context is the thing that you say first that allows people to interpret everything else. And if you skip it, they're gonna interpret everything else based on your tone of voice or based on their assumptions about the relationship.
And you assume that they should just know.
You assume they should just know.
Isn't that obvious? Isn't it obvious that I like this guy? Yeah. And so,
it's often not obvious. So I'll give a few more examples just so you guys can see how this is used in multiple situations. So a formal context might be like, so we've been having this work relationship. We've done 3 projects together. Like, can we sit down and talk about what's worked and what hasn't worked? And are you free on Tuesday for lunch? Like, that's setting context for having a particular conversation, right? That's a formal. A informal thing might be, hey, you got a sec? Like, right? So there's all these little micro ways that you can actually prepare someone for the thing that you're about to share, and even test the grounds. Like, is now the right time to share this, right? Because if we're trying to share into a field of listening that's closed, we might want to wait or set context in a way that opens that field of listening and creates a connection.
And in relationships, this is so powerful. For example, like with me and Gabriel, if one of us has something to share, and this comes out naturally for us, it's different every time, but something along the lines of like, hey babe, there's just this thing that I've been noticing, and I'm just really wanting to have completely open connection with you, so can I just share this with you? So the context is, I want to have completely open connection with you, and there's this one thing that I've just noticed been coming up, or that just happened 5 minutes ago, or whatever that is. And then that space is open, and we can actually hear each other, and come back into that connection.
I love talking with you, Ronja. It's like fun, and we get to like geek out on these tools that we're so passionate about.
Are you enjoying the geeking out, guys? Okay, beautiful. And so we are actually going to wrap up, because it is my last day in Bali, and Jason is going to head out as well into life and into experiences. But let us know in the comments down below if this resonates for you, and if there's one thing that we can leave you with, it's really this: how can you make clear and vulnerable requests, and how can you set context? So if you have something to clear with somebody, rather than just being like, I need to share this thing, or just dumping it on them, to first tune into, what is my desire here? What is the context? Is it that you want to have clear communication with them? Is it that you want to have a deeper connection? Is it that you want to skyrocket the next business project? What is the context? And then say, this is my desire, this is what I want, and so I would love to share this one thing with you. Are you open? Is this a good time? Those kind of ways of setting context.
Yeah, and thank you, Ronja. Like, I just want to like say hello to everyone out there, and like reach out to me if this content is interesting to you. And you know, we're doing these 2 and 3 day trainings in places like Boulder and Bali, and I just got back from Maui, and we're going to be doing like a big partnership together with you in Spain in like 2 months' time.
Yeah.
So I'm super excited about that. And yeah, just so fun to jam on this with you.
Thank you, Jason. And guys, check out the Authentic Relating Training International website. We can post a link here down below as well. If you want to go deeper into this, this is like a mega, super tiny little taste. But there are so many skills that you can learn where you come into any life situation and you feel completely secure, even when you're feeling nervous, and you're having the ability not only to dissolve conflict but to actually transform it and turning conflict into really deep connection. And there are so many more skills around emotional aikido and just how to create really deep connection, the 3 levels of communication, and so much more. And if you want to come and jam with both of us, then come to the Ecstatic Awakening Retreat. I'm doing a lot of ecstatic awakening breathwork, empowerment, massage, acro yoga, everyday ecstatic dance, going into these deep shamanic dance journeys, and everything will be infused with authentic relating, because this is how we create such a deep, loving, connected, authentic, and honest space with all the participants in a way that I find to be really unusual in the spiritual sphere, where yeah, there can be like a lot of spiritual fluff, and I feel like this really brings it into the real and into the authentic. Anything you want to say in closing, Jason?
Yeah, I just feel like this bubbly, delighted feeling. Like, I want to do more of this. Like, let's create more content and just touch base with you out there, and questions, comments, like, bring it on.
Yeah, yes. And right now, I'm feeling, and this is what we're both doing right now, is touching upon another principle, which is revealing your present moment experience. Right now I'm feeling a lot of vibration inside my body, especially in my belly and solar plexus. It's like a slow pulsation in my heart and tingling in my whole body, and a feeling of gratitude for you, Jason, and for you who are watching, and for the space that we get to share with one another. So guys, have a beautiful day.
All right, until soon.
Bye.